Hello, listeners. Welcome. This is Amanda McKeen. You're listening to North of Normal. We're on every Tuesday at 10 a.m. and between 10 and 11, we always have a special guest with us. Today, our special guest is Jamsie Myers. And if you're tuning in for the first time, I just want to say thank you so much for giving your time and focus to what's about to happen in this next hour. We're so excited. North of Normal is all about celebrating the amazing human beings that live here in the North Country of New Hampshire. And probably 6 months or more now, 6 months ago, I was realizing that there wasn't really a platform for people to be visible here in a more meaningful way, where the community would have the chance to get to know who's who. And so I launched North of Normal in June of this year, not that long ago, and have every week had on a different guest, and we just have conversations like we were chatting over coffee. I ask questions. Our guests share whatever's on their heart. The important thing that you should know is that this is unscripted. Jamsie does not have any notes, although he did bring a notepad to take notes. I don't know what he's going to take notes on. But we're just going to have a conversation, and thank you again for tuning in. This is recorded. We are live right now, but it's recorded and it's put out on social media and on my website afterwards so that more people can have the chance to listen. So, Jamsie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And we walked in this building, and one of the first things you told me was, "Hey, I was born here."
That I was.
Is it weird?
It's different.
Yeah.
It's different.
It's surreal, right?
Yep. It's quite the building.
It is quite the building. It's a little bit confusing to get down here to the station, but we're here. Yeah. We're here, and let's start out because, some people listening may not have a clue who you are. So let's start out with, who is Jamsie Myers? And I know that's a really big question, but I'm going to let you take it away and start with whatever you want.
Okay, I'm Jamsie Myers, also known as James Myers. I'm the third. There was James Myers the first, my grandfather, who passed away not too long ago, actually. And then my father, who I work with, James Myers Jr., and I'm James, or Jamsie Myers. When I went to college, I told everybody I was James Myers, and then when I came back home, it was just clicked. I guess I'm Jamsie.
Yeah,
that's what I was in high school and growing up. That's how people decipher our differences between me and my father.
Yeah,
but I got 3 kids. Right now, they're both 6 years old because I had Irish twins.
What?
Yeah, Irish twins. And one turned 7 this month.
Okay.
So I'll have 7, 6, and a 3-year-old, all girls.
Wow.
So we're busy. My wife, Grafton County Sheriff.
Yeah.
That's me.
Oh, man. So many things we could talk about now.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about the Myers history, since it sounds like there's quite a legacy there.
Yeah, so we've all been in construction. My father, back in '92, started the company. His father was a builder, so he worked with him, and then went off on his own in '92. J. Myers Builders really did custom home building, and then in 2002. Decided to buy a spray foam rig. It was kind of what would set us apart as a company. You were going to get a high-end home that is well insulated.
Okay.
And then that kind of took off. The phone started ringing. I want my basement sprayed. I want this. So it kind of took off in its own entity.
Yeah.
And it was kind of when oil prices were high, everything was high, so everyone wanted to put an emphasis on insulating their homes.
Okay.
So that really took off. We had 2 crews doing full-time insulation. In the time I was in high school still at this time, or middle school.
And you were working?
So I used to work definitely every summer. probably started when I remember dipping shingles. So back in the early 2000s, it was like every house we got, they wanted cedar shakes, and they couldn't pick out a color. The 100 colors that they get to pick from, they couldn't pick one. So it was like a custom color every time. So if you could imagine dipping shingles, you take a cedar shake, you dip it in.
The stain?
Stain.
Okay.
Wipe it off, dry it.
Every single
shingle. So, that was probably what I remember most because it sucked.
That's very time consuming.
We had a good system set up that worked. That was it. Not that we couldn't have someone else do it. That was kind of one of the biggest things is, my dad always figured out a way for us to do it. We would do self-perform it. We could control the cost, the quality, and mainly the timing. It was like we needed. I've got my son. He's going to be dipping shingles. My grandfather dipped shingles one whole summer. If you could imagine doing dishes, it's kind of like doing dishes all day long.
Dunking.
Yes. So you're back. And then so that was, when I was 14, my mom, I never really worked with my father hand in hand. He was running the company. He kind of treated me like a normal employee. My mom actually dropped me off to work. I would go with the crew. No
preferential treatment.
Right. Yeah. That was probably the big thing, trying to put me in tough spots. I used to plow. I was 16 years old, plowing these multi-million-dollar homes, get stuck in the middle of the night. Most kids were asleep, or I might have had a basketball game the next day, but I'm out shoveling the deck. But it was good. I'm going to try to do the same to my kids, like putting your kids in tough, positions,
challenges.
Yeah, challenges. A lot of kids nowadays, it's like they're not challenged enough. Learn how to back a truck, trailer up.
Yeah.
Like learn how to hook onto the trailer.
Yeah.
Drive a standard.
I don't know how to do any of those things.
So I worked every summer, and then maybe even the weekends here and there.
And you got paid, right?
Yeah,
they paid you.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
This is good.
And minimum wage, I forget what it was, like $5.25 maybe back then or something. But it was I worked, so I always had money because I worked every summer, and really no days off. We didn't really take any holidays off, anything like that. So it was right through the summer. But
wow.
And then I obviously continued to work. But
so when did the transition happen where you went from being a standard employee to being part of the business from like a directional standpoint? Yeah.
So I always knew I enjoyed the process of building a home, a custom home. Like these are luxury custom homes. These aren't your standard homes. We work with high-end materials that you've never, you might be working, you've never used this material before. It might be something brand new, changing with the times. And so I knew that I always wanted to do that. I did a internship when the new hospital in Littleton, when they put on that addition. I was an intern with the clerk of the works there, George Broder at the time, and I liked, I knew. I wasn't a huge fan of the commercial, but the process of getting all the subs in order, all the materials on site, quality control, being that person, the commercial side, he was the owner's rep. So you have the general contractor that was building the building, and they're getting paid by Littleton Regional Hospital. But Littleton, it's pretty normal for a building that size to have. They hired someone separate to come in and be their rep to make sure that the GC was doing what they needed to be doing. So I was on the owner's rep side, and I got to see a lot, commercially that I hadn't seen before. And they had a big geothermal system that was put in, and he always told me, he's like, you should go to school for engineering, it'd be cool. And so I started out, I went to Roger Williams for a semester over in Rhode Island, and I made it about one semester there until I realized I didn't quite fit in with the city life.
Interesting.
And it was fine. It was a lot. I tried out to be I was going to play baseball over there, and I didn't make the team. And I really wanted to play baseball. I had some guys back here at Vermont Technical College, which offered the same program. I ended up transferring to Vermont Tech.
Okay.
I got out of engineering because I wanted to pursue something a little bit closer to what I thought would make sense, which was construction management.
Okay.
So that's a degree. And it's weird, you're sitting in a class with 40 kids that might have never swung a hammer. I remember this woman was just like, I want to be a construction manager. She knew nothing about construction, so it was like I was kind of steps and bounds ahead of most of these people because I've done it.
Yeah.
I didn't have to. I knew the residential side, and a lot of these people go on to the commercial side. That's where you're going to get hired as a project manager or superintendent or something, work your way up. And I didn't really want to do that. I'm passionate about the residential side, real crafts, craftsmanship, crown molding, different stuff that make these places unique. They're just not big giant boxes with metal studs and a conduit run everywhere, and which is fine as its place. And we need project managers and clerk of the works and stuff like that to run those. But we also, the residential side has a market out there for these luxury homes with the budgets that can pay for general contractors to come in and do it the right way. So when I got out of, I was going to go for my bachelor's degree. I remember I had a year and a half left. I actually texted my father and said I'm going to drop out of college. And
how did he respond to that?
Honestly, I don't even remember. I think he said, "Well, you're going to put a tool belt on and work."
Yep.
Sounds
like him.
I was, that's what I wanted, really. There's no. When I was in this classroom, I'm like, how can we teach? You need time in the field to really know what you're doing in this.
And it wasn't really provided in that setting.
You do, you get to your frame in a shed. But you're talking a lot of these people. Like I said, they go on to these. You could meet a project manager that had never swung a hammer, but they know how to do the Excel spreadsheet to put in X, Y, and Z for the day.
Gotcha.
You might not make it to a superintendent. Most of the supers probably had swung a hammer, but you might be the apprentice of the super.
Okay.
Most of these you need, and not to say you might get hired as a carpenter and you've got a construction management degree. I guess the nice thing about construction is you don't have to, you can get paid. You can pay to go to college and come out and go get a job. Let's say I go to a business school. I want a business degree. I'm going to get out. I'm going to get a job. I just paid for 4 years of college. With carpentry, you're going to get paid. You might not be. It's not going to be minimum wage, but it's not going to be top dollar either. But you're getting paid to learn.
Yeah.
The steps
and have the experience.
Yeah, and you're actually getting paid to do it. So it's not having to go to college. I did. I don't regret it. I learned. We still use an estimating software that I had learned that I use all the time, especially with spray foam. I can get square footages real easy, that sort of thing. I learned how to hand draft, architecture stuff. Excel, I'm pretty decent in. I learned stuff like that I use every day.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I would have, if I could go back, I probably wouldn't have gone to college, maybe.
Yeah.
But I did, and I guess I'm happy that I did, and I made it through. I paid it back, and
free and clear.
Yeah. I actually am now. Finally.
Good. Congrats.
And so as soon as I got out of college, and I remember a couple of professors, I actually emailed each one privately. I was one of the better students I took it serious. I wasn't really into partying too crazy or anything like that, and I took it serious because I knew this is what I wanted. I was going to do this. A couple of professors were like, you're going to regret it. What are you going to do? If the business fails, this or that. And it's like, if that was on my mind, that'd be a bad step. It's a step in the wrong direction if you think it's going to fail. But,
right.
I simply just said, I don't think the time on the job can't be replaced here at school. And I've learned enough. I know that the next year is a bunch of software stuff that I could use if I was going to go off in the commercial world. I'm in the residential world. I'm here where we have masons and we're laborers. It's everybody's working hard every day, and there's nothing like doing it. I've done concrete. I've done framing. I was a framer. So when I got out of college, I did a little bit of everything. We have obviously the spray foam side of it. I sprayed foam for a year just to get the hang of that, and
you did that with your dad's business, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we had a whole different side of it, which was the home performance. So like your Eversource and New Hampshire Electric Co-op, all these different electric companies, you could they would give you rebates on home performance. So you would call, they would have flyers or whatever. I don't even honestly know how people would find out about it, word of mouth. And we were one of the ones that would go in and do the audit. So I became certified to do energy audits. So I'd go in and I was trained by Melissa, this woman who worked for us. She's one of the best in the area. All the different people who did the inspections, loved her. She was very thorough.
Yeah.
So I was grateful for her. I learned a lot in how to present the job to the homeowner. I knew. Honestly, it got down to the point where, like, before you even go into a house, you could, it was built in the 1970s. I know you're going to need insulation in your attic. I know you're going to be insulation. Like, I didn't even have to be there, and I could almost tell you your work scope. But you'd show up, and you do the whole, thorough thing, blower door test, blah blah blah, and then so I was doing this while.
So you do So you do a walkthrough, and you already knew what the needs were going to be, so you just basically walk through and be like, "Oh yes, this is going to be a thing."
Exactly. So they were usually home.
Okay.
You would walk. I would do my investigation, then go through with the homeowner and be like, "Listen, this is heat escapes through your roof. You're going to need more insulation in your attic. Cold air comes in through your basement. You don't have any, there's no air seal in your basement. You have all stone foundation. Spray foam would be a good alternative for this. But we also did the work, and that was the incentive. We got paid to be an energy auditor. That wasn't the goal behind it. Was we got a lot of work out of this. And the other side of it is we got to see these homes perform better, because we would do a test out, and it's like, hey, these people actually save money.
So you did a before and an after. Yeah, that's cool.
And there was no income limits. It was for anybody. And the nice thing was, we'd go up to Stratford, Pittsburgh, these older people that had these homes. They were paying an arm and a leg, they're on a fixed income. They can afford to heat their house.
Yeah.
They were, some of them would be in like tears the next year. They're like, you wouldn't believe the amount of money we saved.
Yeah.
And they obviously paid for the work. You could finance it. But it made sense. You were basically making these houses tighter.
That's awesome.
And it got old. It's like, it's another house. It's all the same. And, I couldn't see myself doing that forever, but it was a good experience. We got out of the home performance. They got done. Obviously, it was funded through different stuff, and they cut the funding. We actually got done like 6 months before they cut the funding.
You did.
And,
okay.
Kind of phased out of that. Obviously, we still do it.
But there's no like rebates or programs anymore.
And there is. I think they've actually opened it back up. So there actually is. We're not one of your energy auditors, but there are, and we could be the one that maybe goes in and insulates your home.
I got a question. So I'm imagining being a homeowner and having you come in and telling me that I have all of these basically problems with my home. Did you ever get homeowners that were like upset at you or feeling like suspicious because you clearly were also providing the solution to the problem?
Not really, and a lot of them didn't know that we would actually, they probably thought it was pretty normal. We were probably one of the only energy auditors that actually had a insulation
spray
company.
Foam. Okay.
Most of them came in and they'd have to hire out the work, and it's all the same. You get paid; they all get paid the same.
Okay.
There was energy auditors that would get mad. They're like, these guys are like a monopoly. They also do the work, and it was kind of like,
So no one else was like that?
No, not really. There was, if you were alone, there's decent money in an energy audit. Yeah. You can go around. Obviously, we have a business with some overhead that they wouldn't have. That we have rigs and trucks and insulation and crews and guys. And, keeping these guys busy. It was hard. So I was basically. I was running a framing crew, and really frame to finish. I mean, we would actually do. I think when I first got out with the next house we got, I did the own foundation. We did an ICF, insulated concrete form foundation. So, poured the footings, did the foundation, poured the walls, and it was like my first. It was like learn on the fly.
Yeah,
it was. We were able to, again. Stay within the homeowner's budget needed, which is crazy sometimes. Obviously a lot of these people are wealthy, and you take someone like, we're bending over backwards to make sure that they're getting every dollar. That, not to say they couldn't afford the concrete guy to go in and do it himself, but we took it on, and it was good. I'm glad we did. I learned. I did a full foundation rebar, and poured many foundations, and then I would basically make sure the guys were set for Friday. Basically, I took every Friday, and that was my energy audit day.
Okay.
And I'd go out and to keep them going.
Yep.
And so it was a lot at the time.
Sounds like a lot. So how did you then move into actually being part of the overseeing of these custom high-end homes that you now do?
Yeah, and I think it was just a step we took as a company. We self-performed a lot when I was right out of college, and we were very lean right now for the amount of work we do in a year. Our manpower is not very strong internally. We have subs that we rely on, and a lot of them are the same subs. It's got its drawbacks, but I was kind of, the more subs that we have, I needed to kind of take the tool belt off, quality control, make sure the materials are on site. If we're subbing a lot out, I can have 3 different crews doing different stuff on site. There could be 15 guys there
at the same time.
That we need to make sure, there's a lot of money moving in one day, every hour. I basically try to plan my day. One thing I got better at was giving my full attention. Like right now, you have my full attention.
Oh, thank you.
When I first started, it was like there's so much going on. If you don't break your day into segments, you're going to just overwhelm yourself. So it was like right now, I drop my kids off to school. 7:45. We start our day at 7.
Okay.
I used to be on site at 7. I've made a commitment to my kids that I'm dropping them off at 7:45, and I get to do that. And I'm glad I get to do that. And then I go in and I make my first stop, and each sub has my full attention for 15 or 20 minutes. What do you need from me? How can I make your job easier? And they'll let me know if they need anything. I need to be on the phone. Do I need to run to the lumberyard? Hopefully everything was planned the night before, because that's what I'm doing at night.
Yeah,
is making sure that everyone knows what they're doing at 7 a.m. That we're not showing up waiting for me to show.
Yeah.
Everyone's there at 7. Working.
Yeah. Was that modeled to you by your dad?
Yeah, for sure. There's every minute counts in this industry. It's not only that's time is money, and everybody knows that. But it's also just it when everybody's working. Like, you show up, a homeowner shows up, and they just see everybody, enjoying their craft and heads down. You got the carpenters that are inside. There's sawdust everywhere. The masons are out, and there's they're chipping brick. The roofers are on the roof, whatever. And it's each person is is enjoying what they're doing, and they're doing it.
It's a big production. Yeah. I actually got a tour of a couple of the places you guys are working on. Yeah. In I think it was a month ago. And first of all, I was blown away at the magnitude of some of these houses that are being built. They're just like something you'd see out of a magazine. Yeah, yeah. And the one of the ones I saw, there was several crews there, and there was no one was standing around. There was this level of confidence that just was with everybody that was there. They knew what they were doing. They had a job to do, and they were busy. Yeah, yeah. No, it's when things are going good, it's good. It's like you walk in, and this morning before I came here, I went and did my rounds, and everybody, nobody really needed anything. Everybody, head down, going to town, and that's when things are good. And my phone's been ticking off over here. I obviously, one thing I always do is if a sub is calling me, I won't right now for this, but if a sub calls me, I answer the phone. Even with a client, I don't want to hold a sub up for anything, and I hope a client that I potentially could be building a house for would understand the same, because I do the same thing for them. A sub's calling me, they could be, the next hour they could just be sitting there because they need to answer a question, or they're missing something, or they want to know if they're doing it right. Do we have the right pattern, whatever. So yeah, I make sure that I'm the sub. I'm there for the subs. That's essentially what I am as a general contractor. Not only for the subs, but I look at it like in the commercial world where they have to hire an owner's rep. We're also an owner's rep. Like I'm not only there. Yes, I'm gonna have the back of my subs and employees, every day, but I'm also have the back of the owner who's paying the bills. Yeah. So both sides of it. And it could be difficult at times. There's tough conversations, the biggest thing is being transparent. Transparency is key. We're transparent with everything. We try to come up with a realistic budget for the home, which, as you could tell, that's not easy with those magnitude. One line item could be thrown off, but we have budget numbers in there off of past data. And past data is important. Obviously, if you're just starting out, it's difficult if you don't have any, you're going off maybe someone else's data, which everyone's different. Everyone has different overhead. That's right. Again, we're pretty lean. We don't have a ton of overhead. We try to stay, we don't take this for granted. The amount of work we have right now, it's great, but there could be a time where it's slow and we're prepared. We could... We would take on whatever we would need to fill in the time. Yeah. I forget where I was going with this, but anyways, yeah. Well, you were talking about how it's important to have relationships with not just your subs, but also the owner. And I remember one thing you told me before was that you want to be able to, when the house is done, be able to go sit down with the owner and have a beer.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. And that's what... I always am thinking, why do people pick me? I was thinking about that this week, or us as a company, and I think it's that we're gonna work our butt off to make sure that your home is exactly the way that you want it. And if there's tough conversations with them or subs, we're going to have it. We're going to have it early. If quality's not there, it's going to be redone. Mm-hmm. It's going to be caught in the early stages. And it's not very often that it would be. There might be a miscommunication that would need to be taken care of. But we would, that's why I think is at the end of the job, we want them happy.
Yeah.
They've invested a lot of money into us and this home to be built for them, that it needs to be what they've do the best that we can.
Yeah. It's awesome. I wish we could, we can. Capturing the quality of those homes is like something that you're always doing, and you're capturing the process too. I know that you're good at posting on Instagram and Facebook stories, especially when you're in the middle of a job, and it's really cool, the stuff that you post.
Yeah.
So if listeners haven't followed J. Myers Builders yet, I think it's JMB is the logo. Yeah. But it's really interesting work.
Yeah, and again, I try to do as much as I can, but I'm also trying to be fully engaged when I'm on site. Again, the one thing I've gotten better at is my time is the most valuable thing every day. It's very, we don't have enough of it to get done what we need to get done.
It's the one thing.
I can't fill it up too much with Instagram and Facebook, but I try to. I try to give my full attention to the homeowner when he's there, he or she, the subcontractors, my own employees. We're also running a company that we have our own employees. Where I think I've said it before. It's almost like sometimes you're HR. It's you have an employee who's sick, an employee whose father passed away, and there's everybody we're all humans, we're not robots. So every day there's different things. I remember my mother asking my father what I should be taking in college to prepare for this, and he just was like, I don't think there's anything that can prepare you to dealing with people.
No.
Maybe psychology. Right?
Maybe. Even that's limited.
And I've gotten better at it. I'm 32 years old. Try to convince.
You're so young.
Try to convince these homeowners that I'm 32 and you can trust me with these multi-million-dollar projects. I don't take it lightly, but I'm also ready for the challenge, and I've done it, and like I said, I'll work my butt off to make sure they get what they do or what they need. Yeah.
I'm sure you've been in some really uncomfortable situations where you had to communicate certain things, like knowing that someone's going to be disappointed with something that you're about to say.
Yeah, I mean, it comes to everyone, it's time and money. Those are the two big things with, schedule and budget, and we try to control as much of that as we can. And there's obviously, material. We get a, you want. We'll take that one in Sugar Hill that you saw. It's got a copper roof on it. There was $100,000 in there for the roof. That little copper section was $20,000. That threw that budget, and that was something he was willing to pay for, and saw value in it. But it wasn't. There was. I couldn't just throw it on there and be like, "Oh yeah, that was $20,000." We needed to get real pricing.
Yeah,
and it's going to be real. We're not going to go out and get. We have the subs that we've dealt with, through time, that have proven themselves with quality schedule. A lot of them will even drop schedule, 4-hour jobs, to get it done when we need it done. Which, we're pretty faithful in dealing with the same ones until they're going to be unfaithful back.
Yeah.
So we we try to stick with the same guys that have proven themselves, and they're right in there in the ballpark where they need to be money wise. We know what they cost.
So you can depend on what they're saying to be able to set expectations with the client, right?
Yeah. Nobody's working at these jobs for free. It's everybody should be able to make a living wage when it's all said and done. For their trade, and no one's going out empty-handed, and we control that. It's making sure they're getting paid what they need to get paid. If there's changes that they need to be paid for, they're going to get paid for, and it's having those conversations early with the client to just let them know, like, hey, just so you know, not only did you have copper, you need X, Y, and Z, which is going underneath, which is going to cost this much. We might need to, something else could be changed that needs to be reframed, whatever. There's other setbacks that could happen that need to be relayed back to the payer.
Yeah.
That's the general contractor in a nutshell.
So it's really a professional expectation setter.
Yeah, no, exactly.
That's what you are.
Yeah, exactly.
That's an art to be able to do that.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of practice and skill and experience for sure.
Yeah.
And you being only 32 and having that ability is like really awesome.
Yeah, and I mean the biggest thing is learning from each job. You take what could I have, every day I go back and I'm like, how could this day have gone different? Whether it was a conversation or a something that could have gone, we had to reframe a wall because I didn't look at the plan. Should I have looked at that plan the night before? I don't know, but I just made that up.
Yeah. Okay.
I every day you get better on each job for sure.
Because you're taking the time to reflect on what happened.
Yeah.
If you didn't do that, you'd be making the same mistakes over and over again.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And you're only as good as we're lucky enough to deal with these clients that have the budgets to do that. It's not like, there's other contractors that could come out and build that same house. They might not get that opportunity because they don't have the budgets. It's obviously comes down to budget. What's the homeowner willing to pay? It helps when you have an architect that, some people just have no idea, who would have known a copper roof would look good on that? You know what I mean? It's kind of like, the architect, in some cases, the architect could be the owner's rep and they're along for the game. But they kind of drive the, obviously the initial build, of what the structure is going to look like. And then, a lot of those same jobs that you've seen have interior designers that come in and they have their say as well.
Yeah.
And again, the homeowners, they've and I know a lot of them trust me. And I'm no interior designer, but I've seen my fair share of houses.
You have an eye,
and so I know a lot of them fall back on me. Like, what would you do?
Yeah.
And obviously, I have to put myself. I don't have the money they do, and so you put yourself in their shoes, or try to the best you can, and help them make that decision.
Yeah. And you've even told me about times where you've suggested something and the client has gone ahead with it and been really happy with it.
Yeah. There's those times, and I'm sure it's happened. You kind of forget it all. It all kind of blends in with the day to day.
Yeah.
But, I mean, basically every week, I at some point, some of these, if it's a second home and the clients aren't around, they might only come up, once a month. So that one day that they're on site's very important to be prepared with every. There is a lot of materials that go into a house and a lot of choices, and some people aren't prepared. This could be their third or fourth home, and they're like, rolling their eyes, like, oh, I can't, I have to pick out fixtures again. They're, first world problems. But, there's a lot of decisions, and I do my best to not overwhelm them. Like when they show up, and I need to pick, because if you overwhelm them, you're not going to get any answers. It's some stuff can be text. I text all. I mean, I one day I think I counted 45 different people I had to text in a day. I mean, it's I'm constantly texting, but it's like, pictures. Hey, this is how much this railing costs. These are the different options. Go to this website. You can take a look, for yourself. When you come to site, I can have some here, whatever makes sense for you. But it's like, it's that for every step of the way.
How do you keep track of that?
It's not easy.
No, that sounds like chaos.
Yeah, some of them are ready. Some of them know exactly what, but usually they know, hey, I either want tile or I want hardwood. They don't know what type of tile. They don't know what type of hardwood. So I'm recommending where they need to go.
Yeah.
And obviously these other trades help. Our tile guy's very good. Hey, go to this tile place. I'll meet you there. Let's go through tile. Or you might have an interior designer that already picked it out.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with interior designers and architects is a lot of them don't have that budget in the back of their mind. We've already given this client a budget, and an interior designer comes in. They're like, "Oh, I like this tile would look great down there. The speckled granite, would look great." Well, we had $5 a square foot in there. That's $35 a square foot. Which is fine. You just need to be transparent and be like, just so you know, before you go too far, that's 10 times the cost of what we had in your budget. Yeah. You're going to spend, $30,000 on that tile. And, is that, are you ready for that? Because there's nowhere to cut somewhere else. Right. And that's the biggest thing, there's some, we might even we'll take on home, any type of build really. I call these that we got going now more of, a luxury home. Everything is fairly, it is high end. There's nothing that's not high end. Everything is high end. Mm-hmm. Quality would never change if it was not high end material. There's still quality of craftsmanship. It's been around since the 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever. My father grew up, framing and trimming houses, siding. When you cut wood and it's outside, you paint the end grains. You're painting all four sides. You don't want to get moisture in there. Your nails need to line up. You're going to, Craig jig all your window trims so that they don't
Craig jig?
Craig jig. Go to Home Depot in YouTube.
Don't you have a brother named Craig?
I do, yes.
Is his name anything to do with Craig jigging?
No, Craig jig is Kreg.
Craig.
And I've had friends, and it's like they're trimming out in their house, and I'm like, go get a Craig jig, and it's like you're never going to do it different because it's like perfect. It's pocket screwed from behind, so you can screw and glue. You're going to measure your window, and you're going to pre-make it on the ground. So, like, I learned you could literally go. I don't know if I would take the specs off of, like, let's just say you're putting Anderson windows in. You could probably take the Anderson window specs and look at the sheet and probably pre-cut everything. But you're going to go around, you're going to take 1 to 2 hours, and you're going to measure all the windows on a notepad. Then you're going to go back down to your work table, and you're going to build every single window trim on the ground, and you're going to put it up in one piece.
That makes sense.
And it's you're then controlling the quality. It's much faster. You're on the ground working. You're not up in the air. Those sorts of things that every one of our subs do, and if they're not, they're going to do.
So it's not just the quality of the materials; it's the quality of the work that's
100%. Yeah. You're only as good. We've got our finished carpenters are top notch, and we that have been around. We've got guys that still have been through the transition that have worked with my father back in the day. They've been with us for 20 years, some on and off, but are still with us.
Nice.
And they know how we do things, and it's always the right way. If it's we don't want to do it again, but if we have to do it again, we're going to do it again. We're not going to. If we notice it, it's going to get taken off and it's going to get redone. That's just what we've. You have to set that precedent early, and I don't have to really set that precedent anymore. They all know. Yeah. You might have a laborer that's helping out a carpenter that might mess up, but that my head carpenter is going to catch that before I do. Like, hey, that's not going to fly. That comes off. And that's, that's probably what separates us a little bit.
I'd say so.
But it's out of due respect of the money that people are paying for these,
and the trust that they're putting in you too. It's your reputation, right?
Yeah, we get top dollar for our, not top, but we're, I would say top dollar for our trade, and so don't each client, and each sub, and we need to do our respects and make sure that the client is getting what they deserve for the money that they're paying, and that's where we come in to make sure they are. And a lot of them know they live in nice homes. So they know quality when they see
know.
Then we want to be able to bring them other future clients back into these homes to see them, to see the quality that you can have. It also helps with choices. Some people are like, oh, I can't pick between this floor, and I'm like, hey, we laid that floor in so and so's house. Let's just see if we can get in and take a look at it, and things like that.
Yeah.
That help. But
hey, we have a few minutes left, and there are a couple subjects I definitely want to make sure we touch on.
Yeah.
I love how much depth you went into about your work. I want to hear a little bit about what it's like to be married to a sheriff.
Sheriff one.
A sheriff in town.
I look at her. She's a rock star for sure.
She's a sheriff in Lisbon, right?
The Grafton County.
Oh, Grafton County. Grafton County.
And it's the same deal. I look at myself. She had to go through a lot. At 30 years old, she was trying to convince the county of Grafton that she should be the sheriff. Not only a 30-year-old, but a female.
Yeah.
And, I had no doubt that she was going to win, but it was kind of like for her to make that initial step, like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And I remember her telling me, and I'm like, the worst that's going to happen is you don't.
Yeah.
And took that step, and she's definitely transformed the county, the sheriff's office for sure. Built a team. The hardest thing is a 2-year stint, and then you have to re-up. You're going to spend your first 5 or 6 months rebuilding.
Okay.
You get a good year's worth of work, and then you have 6 months of campaigning again. You're a politician, unfortunately.
So how long has she been a sheriff?
So last January 6th or whatever it was.
Of this year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so she's got a whole other year.
So she's in the first stint.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And I already, fully staffed. There were some people that had left that weren't up for the challenge of having a 30-year-old female boss.
Uh-huh.
And which is great. You get to go in and create your team. You're not stuck with any negative, with any.
Yeah.
You get to go in. You're gonna set the boundaries.
Good.
You're gonna bring in, quality people that everyone gets to work with, and it was good for Grafton. I don't know if she's going to run again. We haven't talked about it, but I would, if she did, I think she would probably get it again. And,
yeah.
And I think it's it's a big asset for the county to have her in there, because it's one of the local. There's not many places around that have 8 full-time people on during the day. You know what I mean? If God forbid there's a active shooter or something at a school, like they're the asset. There's 8 people that could come to the call, and 8 able bodies now that would want to do that, to help the community.
Yeah.
So it was good. But she's learning the life of a politician.
Oh man, that must be tough.
Which is different, and it's got its, but you just put your head down and, same deal. It's like, she told the county of Grafton she was going to work her butt off to do, get it where it needed to be. And it was like, what more could you want? You know what I mean? She's not some 60-year-old washed up, retired cop.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's what, but she's 30 and
She's
right in the midst of her career,
yes.
like ready to go. Let's make this into something. Let's transform this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you think that new position has impacted your family this year?
It's been different. Obviously, last year she was campaigning. She took a year off with our kids, which was great. Obviously, one was not in school, so they're all in school now. We have one in preschool, first and second grade, and now she's got her full-time gig going, and she's got a little bit of flex in her schedule to make stuff work, but it's different for sure. We're both right in the midst of our careers, so it's like, and that's why when we're home, like I used to bring, just like when I break my day down for the subs, when I get home, I try to give my kids and my wife their my full attention. It's like I might answer the phone for a sub if they're working late or whatever, but I'm not bringing a bunch of paperwork home. I might do that when they're in bed or whatever, but like, your kids and your wife deserve your full attention when you're home for sure.
Yeah.
Which helps when everybody's on the same page and if things are going good at home, everything going good. Yeah.
That's a good thing to say. You guys just had a couple vacations, I think, right?
Yeah. We like to travel. We have a camper, and we do every now and then we'll do a weekend to Maine or something like that.
Yeah.
And we just barely got back from over in Wells, Maine, at the beach. Got a little sun, but
definitely got some sun. You also have a place in Florida, right?
Yeah, we do. I dabble in real estate a little bit.
Okay.
It kind of, obviously the thing with construction is, you can make a, living wage and you can do this and that, but you also need to think about retirement. I mean, as much as I love it, I don't want to do it till I'm 70. At some point want to retire, and I've never quite understood the stock market and the that sort of thing. So I have a friend who helps out with that, but I've always understood real estate. Yeah. I see it. I deal with it every day. Yeah. I can take a building, buy it cheap, fix it up, and so I own some rentals. Nice. It's nice to be able to make a home for people to live in. There's a need for that, and a lot of them are overcharging in their crap holes. But so I try to buy them and fix them up a little bit, make them nice, and then. So it's a long-term investment. Yeah. I purchased one in a house in Florida, which, as long as it withstands the hurricanes, we're going to. It's our little. The plan is to Airbnb it, but right now it's family and friends. Okay. It'll be where my wife and I and the kids get to go for the weekend. Yes. And escape. Or a week here or there in the winter when it seems like the winter never ends here in the North Country. It's already starting. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. And then I wanted to definitely talk about one of the things that you do in the community here that I didn't really know about much is about baseball. Can you talk about what you're contributing through baseball? Yeah, so I actually just coached a 12U team. It was actually my brother's. My brother had a kid on the team, and and that wasn't the only reason. I always have enjoyed baseball. It's a team sport, but I can relate to it almost in the construction world. It's like it's the off season. It's every practice. You're gonna practice. You're gonna hit. 100 swings. You're gonna pitch 100 balls all week for that one time you get to go up to bat. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's no different. No different in our everyday world. You know, it's like you need the time you have to perform. You need to be ready for it.
Yep.
So I coached 12U, and I don't know if I had any impact on them, but it was we did well, and it was kind of my first little stint.
It was your first time coaching?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay.
I've helped out with my kids, but that was 12U's a little bit more organized, and it was. It was tough. We limited kids here in the North Country, especially baseball. It seems like soccer is kind of the sport everybody plays.
Okay.
And I like soccer too. I played soccer in college. I played soccer and baseball in college. I enjoyed both, but baseball mainly because of, like I said, it's team oriented. But when it's your time to shine, like it's going to show if you're not ready.
Yeah.
you need to throw the ball yourself. You need to hit yourself.
Yeah.
And it's the off season that does that. Every practice, showing up, doing your best, and then when you get home, ice your arm. I pitched, and it was like every night. As much as I hated to do it. I look back and it was like the simplest thing you could do, and it was like in high school, it was like the end of the world. I have to ice my arm tonight.
The ice bath?
No, just ice. They make like a wrap.
Yeah.
Basically, the inflammation
from
throwing. With softball, you can, it's a different type of trajectory. So but with baseball, it's a lot of arm. People get Tommy John surgery, and it's a lot of you're using your legs as much as you can, but you're slinging your arm quite a bit. And especially when you go from around here playing 3 sports, it's like you don't play baseball in the off season like they might in other places. I was playing soccer, I was playing basketball, then it was baseball season. It's like, holy cow, I haven't thrown a baseball in 9 months, and now I got to throw again.
Yeah. So
it was different, so I coached, and it was.
You think you'll coach again?
Yeah. No, I think. Yeah. It was something to look forward to. I like to challenge myself, and it was we were a young team that didn't, and I was like, you know what, that's perfect. It's like I think of them like we're like the junkyard dogs. We're gonna go out and we're gonna fight. It doesn't. We might not have the skill, but we're gonna work our butts off to make it look like we know what we're doing. Show up with our hats facing forward, your uniform tucked in. Those things make a difference. Like they might not know at 12 years old, and some people might not know at all. But when you show up and you look like you know what you're doing, people think you know what you're doing. So that was my goal.
Love that.
Like, let's show up, look like we know what we're doing. Let's practice before the game like we know what we're doing. Yeah, and it'll probably rub off in the right direction.
I love that. That's kind of an extension of your work ethic with the business. Yeah. Sounds like it. I mean, you know what you're doing with your business.
Fake it till you make it.
But the level, the quality of the process is there too, is what I mean. Yeah. Wow. You were worried that we wouldn't have enough to talk about for an hour, but I feel like we could keep going. Yeah. We've got a couple minutes left. One question that I want to make sure I ask you is, what to you, like, you chose to come back here to the North Country. You could have left and never come back. Mm-hmm. And last week, when I was talking to my guest, Shelley, we were like, why do people leave and never come back? I want to know from you, like, why did you decide to stay here? What is it that you truly love about the North Country?
Yeah. First and foremost, it's a great place to raise your kids. I was raised here, fortunate enough to be raised here, so I think it's a safe place. Tight-knit communities where your kids get to experience that, and they might they'll get to choose from themselves, obviously, when the time comes. But a lot of times you realize you're not, you're a small fish in a big bowl, and you might be noticed a little more here in the North Country, right, which some people like, and obviously we've got places like Sugar Hill and places, destination areas where people are building, luxury homes where we get to do this.
Yeah.
It's not like you could be living in somewhere random, Pittsburgh, and there's some, whatever. There's more opportunity here for this business.
Yeah.
Lincoln, that sort of thing. Yeah, I think a great place for the kids to be raised. We can you can make a healthy enough living here to raise your kids and hopefully teach them the values of how they should act in the real world.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I'm glad that you chose to come back, and so glad that you chose to say yes to this opportunity on the radio today.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
Yeah, there's probably so many more conversations we can have. Would you want to come back sometime?
Yeah. No,
yeah?
This
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And I just want to put that out there to all of our listeners. If you know somebody that you think would be really awesome to have on the radio that really values living in the North Country, I would love an introduction. You can find me on social media, or my website is clearviewadvantage.com, and that's also where this podcast lives. So if you want to go back and listen to some previous episodes, they are on there for your listening pleasure. Jamsie, thank you so much again for being here, and hope everybody has a fantastic day today. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.